You don't say.
I think one of the biggest glaring things, as like a last point on this, Zamir White questionable, Alexander Madison, Amir Abdullah going up against that Pittsburgh front, T.J. Watt. I just don't see it happening and them being
Talk
able to
about a
move the
running back
ball.
room that does not inspire confidence. Oh
No,
boy,
no.
jeez, that offense.
Maybe we see Aiden O'Connell though.
We
Maybe
should.
that's a
How
spark they
fun.
need.
A
I think
Purdue
we will.
quarterback.
I think if you're Pierce, you maybe have nothing else to lose. So
Right. No,
Yeah.
I think we will. I think Gardner has lost the job. So, with that being said, we'll move on to the next game. Uh, I don't know if we have to spend too much time on this actual game. I think we'll take Atlanta. I'll take the points. Atlanta is heading to Carolina, taking on a very beaten down, battered Carolina Panthers team. Uh, Seemed like all of their top guys got hurt last week for Chicago. Um, it looks like some linemen are going to be out. Tommy Tremble, he got knocked out last week.
mhm.
Uh, Xavier Legette with the shoulder injury. Jadeveon Clowney with a shoulder injury. Uh, I don't think they have a chance this week. I think they're going to be one of the top three worst teams in the league. So, speaking more on Atlanta, I love what they've looked like the last couple of weeks. Kirk Cousins swag surfing now. Uh, I think I'm on that train. I'm on the Atlanta train until further notice. Um, what are your thoughts? How do you like Atlanta? Do you think they're the top of the division right now? How do you look at them going forward in that division specifically?
Well, look, I'm a big fan of Dirty Kirks, but um, one thing I will say about Atlanta is from if you look at the sample size for the first 5 weeks, they've won a lot of very close and one score games, and at some point in the NFL, that might come back to regress. Now, granted, I think they're finally hitting their stride in offense. I think Kirk's a little bit more comfortable with the offense and with his Achilles. I think he's finally back to he's not seeing bright lights, not deer in headlights like he looked like for the first couple of weeks. So I think from a buy perspective, I like Atlanta. They've gotten through the first 5 weeks in a very tight fashion. So, um, look, I think in that division, Tampa Bay, I think, can pose a pretty solid threat. I think they're a consistent and solid team. I don't think Tampa Bay is going away in that division.
Sure.
Um, Atlanta's defense, I like AJ Terrell. I think he's a solid player. They may have overpaid him a little bit, but I think he's a solid corner. Um, I feel like I haven't seen much about Matthew Judon getting involved. I think they're still kind of waiting on him to make an impression, and hopefully, as he spends some more time, he kind of gets acclimated and starts producing a little bit more. Um, but yeah, that offense seems like it's finally hitting its stride.
Yep.
So I understand the buy on Atlanta at this point, and again, Carolina is a dead team walking just specifically through injuries. Their offense has showed a little bit more burst as of late with Andy Dalton in there. Um, but again, they're not a team that I think can win this game against Atlanta. So um, the division is interesting. I don't know when Tampa Bay and the Falcons play again. I know they played last week. Um, Curious to see what those two teams look like when they play again. Because I think Tampa Bay can at least give them a run for their money. But again, I think from a talent perspective, Atlanta is definitely the cream of the crop of the division.
And for the
Absolutely.
Falcons, Nate Landman's coming back, starting linebacker for them. That's going to be a plus. And that's all. 47.5 is a gross number. I lean Falcons. I think Kirk is humming on all cylinders with this offense. I think there's confidence in the play calling, and yeah, I think this could also be one of those games where we really see Bijan Robinson come into his own. I think there's too many names and too much firepower on that offense going up against Carolina. I mean, their defense has played well, but in terms of being able to keep up from an offensive perspective, I lean the taking the 6 with Atlanta.
Yep. And Atlanta actually plays Tampa Bay in week 8. So that's a pretty quick
Oh,
turnaround.
okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
that is a quick turnaround. All right. Well, that's interesting. So we're at week 6 right now. I'm curious. I haven't looked at Tampa Bay's schedule. I wonder what games are leading up for each of those teams to that game because I think that's going to be a big game. That might be a game that when you look back on in December and that's like, okay, that might be a tiebreaker-esque game.
Yeah.
But yeah, little one more touch on Carolina before we move on. And this is just something that I've noticed. Why, whenever I tune into a Carolina game, like I tuned in this Sunday against the Bears, and they were highlighting J.C. Horn as like a top player. When I watched J.C. Horn get cooked by Quentin Johnston, I think he gets cooked every single week. I think Carolina's defense, when they've been really, even they were really bad Carolina as a team was really bad last year. But I think their defense has a little bit of friskiness to them. I think that's gone out the window after what the Bears just did to them. So yeah, look, I can only look to lean Atlanta here.
Yeah. And I was really high on JC. I mean, I thought he had all the ability. I thought he had all the ability to be a top 15, top 10 corner.
Injuries may have sucked that away from him. I mean, he tore his Achilles his first year in the league. I don't know. It's tough to come back from as a DB. So
right. So tough out there in Carolina. Maybe Cam Ward sweepstakes. Who's your QB1 right now, Turtle?
Oh, I see. I've been so wrapped up in the running backs in this draft class because there's so many good ones and it's deep. And I'm like, even though the Texans have Joe Mixon, like, give me like Quinshon Judkins late in the first or something just for fun. I like Cam Ward. He's got an NFL arm. If he came out last year, he would have been a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Sure.
Obviously, that's why you wait and you go back to school. I like Shadur Sanders from a talent perspective. Outside of that, maybe Riley Leonard. Again, this isn't as deep of a QB class as last year's was, in my opinion. So again, I don't know. I haven't done my full QB scout yet. It just doesn't seem like there's like that guy in this draft class. And I feel like last year, we'll see what Drake May does this Sunday. But Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams were known to be those dudes. So I don't feel that same way about this upcoming draft class with these QBs. I like Shadur Sanders a lot, but I don't think he'll be a top number 1 overall pick unless teams do just reach on quarterbacks. It kind of depends on who gets that pick, I think, and if it gets traded or not.
Sure.
Plenty of season left to do that scouting. And the only one who needs to worry about that is Mike, I think.
Yep, I was going to say we may need to have Shadur Sanders or Jalen Milroe ready to speak dog pound, buddy.
Oh yeah, Jalen Milroe. I think he'll get drafted in the middle of the first round. He kind of smells like a New York Giant. I don't know why I feel that way, but
yeah, it'll be interesting. I think you mentioned the top 3 guys, so we shall see. Maybe some Carson Beck, but
don't love that.
All that to say, take the Falcons. Don't look back.